Hi everyone, welcome to eSpin webinar. The topic for this webinar is Tenable One Product Overview. My name is Diana and I will be your host for today's topic. From this webinar, we will discover Tenable One regarding what is Tenable One, what are delivered by Tenable One, key benefits of Tenable One, key capabilities of Tenable One, Tenable One version which include Tenable One Standard and Tenable One Enterprise, and finally, at the end of this webinar, we will have a Q&A session about Tenable One. So without further ado, let's get started. What is Tenable One? In addressing the number of ransomware that keep on increasing at exponential rate, we are introduced to numerous platforms as a solution. Agreeably, different platforms come with different metrics, reporting, and training requirements. This made it difficult for organizations to communicate their cyber risks. Tenable One is an exposure management platform to help organizations gain visibility across the modern attack surface, focus efforts to prevent likely attacks, and accurately communicate cyber risks to support optimal business performance. It is a cloud-based platform and focuses on efforts to assess vulnerabilities and exposure across the entire attack surface for proactive risk management. What are delivered by Tenable One? The platform combines the broadest vulnerability coverage spanning IT assets, cloud resources, containers, web apps, and identity systems, builds on the speed and breadth of vulnerability coverage from Tenable Research, and adds comprehensive analytics to prioritize actions and communicate cyber risks. Tenable One offers exposure view, attack path analysis, asset inventory, exposure analytics through the integration of various Tenable One products functionalities, including vulnerability management, web app security, cloud security, identity security, and attack surface management to allow organizations to gain comprehensive visibility across the modern attack surface, anticipate threats, and prioritize efforts to prevent attacks and communicate cyber risk to make better decisions. The key benefits of Tenable One include comprehensive visibility. Tenable One offers a unified view of every asset and associated software vulnerabilities, configuration vulnerabilities, and entitlement vulnerabilities for both on-premise and in the cloud. It performs continuous monitoring to the internet that helps organizations to quickly discover and detect all external-facing assets to remove areas of known and unknown security risks. It reduces time and efforts needed to understand complete attack surface, remove blind spots, and construct a baseline for effective risk management. Predict and prioritize. With Tenable One, security leaders can anticipate impacts of possible attacks by making use of the industry's largest data sets to understand a relationship between assets, exposures, privilege, and threats across an attack path. Exploitable vulnerabilities, attack, and breach pathways are the main sources of cyber attack. Tenable One removes these risks through improved risk prioritization that constantly identify these attack surfaces. Significantly, Tenable One gives more accurate and predictive remediation insights in eliminating risks with the minimal efforts in preventing attacks. Effectively communicate cyber risks. Tenable One provides security executives and business leaders with centralized and business-aligned view of cyber risks. With Tenable One, you can view progress over time with benchmarking against external peers through clear KPIs. You can also gain actionable insights into your overall cyber risk and deliver business-aligned risk assessments that allow you to enhance communication and collaboration among different constituencies. Flexible licensing. Tenable One lets you allocate licensing options according to your specific exposure requirements and change the allocation whenever needed. The key capabilities of Tenable One include Global Exposure View, External Attack Surface Management, Attack Path Assessment, Centralized Asset Inventory, risk-based vulnerability management, comprehensive assessment, secure Active Directory, secure cloud infrastructure, Kubernetes and container security, automated web application scanning, peer benchmarking, program effectiveness metrics, news, and backed by Tenable research. Global Exposure View. Tenable One provides for focused security efforts through clear, concise insight into an organization's security exposure, answering such critical questions as how secure are we? And where do we stand in our preventative and mitigation efforts? How are we doing over time, and what are the key events? Allowing for a unified global exposure score drawn from a variety of different data sources. External Attack Surface Management. Tenable One gives insight into the external attack surface. This allows organizations to identify and reduce risk from the attacker's perspective. Attack Path Assessment. Attack path visualization and prioritization capabilities provide a preemptively focused response to disrupt the path attackers may take. It performs this function by mapping critical risks to the MITRE ATT&CK framework to visualize all viable attack paths continuously, both on-premise and in the cloud. Centralized Asset Inventory. Tenable One eliminates blind spots regardless of data source, such as vulnerability management, web app security, cloud security, and Active Directory security. This centralized view streamlines analysis, simplifies reporting, and helps you take action faster. Risk-based vulnerability management. Tenable One reduces vulnerabilities across the attack surface by dynamically prioritizing remediation based on the real-world risk they pose and incorporating this threat intelligence information into measurements of an organization's exposure to risk. Comprehensive assessment. Tenable One offers insight into the cyber exposure of all assets, including vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, and other potential security threats. Secure Active Directory. Tenable One disrupts attacks to Active Directory by enabling organizations to see everything, predict what matters, and address risk in the Active Directory. Secure Cloud Infrastructure. With Tenable One, you can obtain complete and continuous visibility and remediations of exposures across all cloud resources and assets. Kubernetes and container security. Tenable One lets you perform secure scanning of container images without sending images outside of an organization's network. Automated web application scanning. Tenable One provides comprehensive and accurate vulnerability scanning with full visibility of IT, cloud, and web application vulnerabilities. Peer benchmarking. Tenable One compares cyber exposure between business units or locations internally and against industry peers externally to determine where and when to make key human and financial investments. Program effectiveness metrics. Remediation maturity measurements provide context to risk mitigation efforts. It addresses such questions as how effective are we in meeting our internally set SLAs. News. Integration with Tenable research blogs allows for creation of custom exposure cards to reflect cybersecurity developments. Backed by Tenable research. Tenable One that is backed by Tenable research offers world-class cyber exposure intelligence, data science insights, alerts, and security advisories. There are two versions of Tenable One, Tenable One Standard and Tenable One Enterprise. Tenable One Standard includes Tenable IO, Tenable IO Web App Scanning, Tenable CS, Tenable AD, Lumin, and Exposure View and Assets Inventory, while Tenable One enterprise comprises of every feature in Tenable One standard added with attack pathway for breach and attack mitigation and external attack surface management for insights into the external attack surface, allowing organizations to identify and reduce risk from the attacker's perspective. Or, in other words, the enterprise version includes all Tenable solutions in the standard versions plus the Tenable ASM. Before we move to the final session of this webinar, the Q&A sessions, let us look at this summary that provides you a brief of anything about Tenable One. Tenable One is built for continuous exposure management for cybersecurity leader, risk management leader, and security director. It is a cloud-managed platform that can cover millions of assets from various types including traditional IT, cloud, containers, web apps, mobile, identity systems, and internet-facing assets. The functionality of Tenable One are unified visibility of assets and vulnerabilities, flexible asset-based license, customized reporting and dashboards, scan policy management, group and role-based access, asset management, continuous monitoring, cyber exposure scoring and trend analysis, internal and external benchmarking, score by business context, asset criticality analysis, and cyber exposure reduction scoring. The vulnerability prioritization of Tenable One include common vulnerability scoring system, cyber exposure scores, vulnerability prioritization rating, asset criticality rating, attack path analysis, and recommended solutions. Tenable One involves third-party integration, which are pre-built integrations, open APIs, and SDKs for custom integration. Thank you for joining and listening to our Tenable One product overview. If you have any inquiries about the product or other related products, please do not hesitate to email us at info@espincorp.com or visit our website. Thank you again.